Okay, so let's get started. Thanks everybody for joining us on this the Marketing Group PLC investor call. I understand we have about 40 people on the line. We've switched to this this webinar format so that we can fit more people on. But unfortunately, it takes away the interactive nature that we used to have on previous calls. So we'll be working to the list of questions that were submitted via social media yesterday and this morning. There's a total of 18 questions on this list here, and in our approach to try and keep good transparency and work hard on investor relations, we will try and address all of the questions. There are obviously some questions on here we're not allowed to answer, but we will give some idea about why we're not allowed to answer those. I'll apologize to Adam straight away because as it's only his first day pretty much in the job, I'm going to be doing quite a bit of the talking still, but I do want you to get a chance to meet and to know Adam. So some of these questions here are directed at him, so I'll direct those, and then the ones that are more about the kind of legacy of TMG, if you like, even though we're only about 4 months old, then I will handle those ones. But first of all, I just wanted to say a big congratulations and a big welcome to Adam. This really is a meteoric milestone for the evolution of the Marketing Group PLC as a company. I think it's a sign of maturity. I don't think we would attract someone of Adam's caliber and pedigree to a startup or to a business that was thinking about doing an IPO. So I think this is a great recognition of what we've been able to achieve in the time that we've been able to achieve it, to get to the sort of size and the scale that we have, that we can attract the sort of talent like Adam to come and join us as a CEO. But also it's very timely, because we have our Q3 results coming out soon. At our end of year results, obviously we have always one eye on how we improve our governance, improve our corporate structure, so that we can be as friendly as possible to main market conditions. And to the general evolution of TMG as a business, and to make sure that we're fully complying with all the rules and regulations. So yeah, a big welcome to Adam. I'll let Adam just introduce himself a little bit next, and then we'll get stuck into the questions. So Adam, over to you.
Cool, thank you, Jeremy. Very kind. Firstly, just want to say hello to everyone. Great to meet you all. I'm absolutely delighted to be on board and extremely excited about the potential for the Marketing Group and our joining of forces. I think I'm very confident I can help progress things forward, and it's a testament to the success so far of this business. It really has been unprecedented, the growth you've achieved already so far, and we're just at the beginning, so it's a very exciting time for me as well. So to give you a short background on myself, I'm the chair of the British Interactive Media Association, which is the digital agency industry body in Britain. I've also served on the Council of the Advertising Association and the Institute for the Practitioners of Advertising. And for the last 3 years, I've been working as an independent agency growth consultant, which means that I've been hands-on helping agencies accelerate their organic growth. And I've got some really good experience and results around that. Prior to that, I was chief executive of Weapon 7, an Omnicom-owned digital and CRM agency. And prior to that, I was the managing director and co-founder of Saints, which was a digital creative agency within WPP, which won Agency of the Year twice in 2011. So I've got good experience of working within the big networks. I know what works and what doesn't work from that side of the fence. And I've got a lot of experience in terms of rolling up my sleeves and working with some of the smaller businesses with some of the more hands-on challenges that agencies face. But the reason I was doing consultancy for the last 3 years is because I had a vision which was born out of my experiences in WPP and Omnicom, which coincidentally is so aligned to the marketing groups, which was one of the things that attracted me to it. I had a vision that there is a new way, there is a better way to create scale and to give the support to agency owners who want to realise value, but without crushing the life out of those agencies, homogenising them, and making them a power reflection of their former selves, which is what I saw from the inside working at WPP and Omnicom. So I've been working on Project Oak, which is much publicised, which is a data-centric marketing services group, which was all around creating a really highly compelling and effective case for clients by joining up the various different points in the journey, such as CRM, data and insight, social media, content, paid search, programmatic media, etc. And there's a whole consumer journey around this, which I think you can join up the touch points, get a single customer view, and provide highly effective solutions for clients, which when you overlay that with a more nimble, agile business model, I think it's a highly compelling case. So that's what I've been working on for the last few years. And when I was approached by the Marketing Group to come join them, it seemed like marriage made in heaven, because all the work I've been doing can dovetail into the group. The group is already up and running. They've proven the model. They've got a method which works to acquire businesses very quickly. And so I think our visions are aligned, and hopefully by working together we can then execute the bigger Marketing Group strategy, and I can be a big part in helping that happen.
Fantastic, thank you. And so I guess that kind of covers a little bit of why TMG. Is there a particular vision that you will that you want to execute on your, perhaps your first 100 days?
Well, I mean, I'm very conscious that the first 100 days for me is going to be about getting my feet under the desk, really immersing myself in this business and understanding everything about it, getting to know all the agencies within the group, getting to know the investors and everyone else that's involved in it. So I think the first 100 days is absolutely about immersion. Of course, I have relationships. I've got a huge network of UK agencies. And of course, I'm going to start bringing those businesses into the group and starting the conversations. The other thing around my initial sort of first 100 days is I very much want to start looking at a strategy for raising the profile of the group. A campaign yesterday described us as a low-profile marketing services group, and that's something that I think was, I think it's a compliment in a way that we've actually managed to get to 100 million market cap under the radar, and so now we've popped up on the radar. And we're just starting. So one of the things I'm going to be working hard on is creating a strategy for raising the profile of the group, creating an attraction strategy so more agencies are knocking at our door and asking how they can get involved.
Okay, that's great. So let's go straight into the 18 questions we have here that were submitted over social media since yesterday. If you didn't get involved, I apologise, but you can follow up on social media with further questions, either to the TMG Twitter account or directly to myself and Adam, as I'm sure you will. Anyway, our investors are great at reaching out. I think they find it refreshing that we actually answer. So it's a nice differentiator we already have for a secret organisation like ours. So the first question, I won't start pronouncing some of these names because obviously they're Twitter handles. But the first question is, how big is the pipeline Adam brings to the table?
Right. So yeah, as I've previously laid out, I've been working for a good few years now on building this pipeline, and there's about 51 million in EBIT across the agencies that I've been speaking to at various stages. Now, of course, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to bring all those agencies in, but many of them are right, and many of them we will be speaking to over the coming weeks and months to bring into the group. So I think it gives us a great head start in terms of going back to some people that I've already got very warm relationships with and putting forward the Marketing Group's model. Strategically, many of them are aligned, and I think many of them will actually jump at the chance to become part of this progressive model.
Fantastic, thank you. And then the second one is, are you taking that 100 million to TMG? This is obviously a reference to, I think it's quite well publicised that you'd raised or you had an offer of 100 million of private equity. Is that true?
Yes, we had letters of support from private equity companies that were provisionally prepared to invest up to £100 million over 5 years to fund this acquisitive group that we were about to launch. Mm-hmm. Clearly, that was under a private equity-backed model, and now this is a PLC model, and our acquisition structure is very different. So we probably don't need that 100 million. However, I've got good relationships in the private equity space. So if we did want to speak to those guys, then of course they're there. Yeah,
I'm sure we could find a home for it. The third question, I think this is one more for me actually, which it says, previously we learned that some subsidiary owners had not received their shares yet. Any updates on that? Yeah, that was more something that came up in one of the reports that we got, that Mangold had a huge amount of unallocated shares. Yes, I think there are still a handful of shares that haven't been allocated yet. I mean, obviously all these shares are locked up, so they're not being allocated isn't really an issue for the people receiving them until it gets to that 360-day plus point. But yeah, from an administrative perspective, it was a real issue, because we'd just done so much in such a short space of time. We'd created a bottleneck with the admin side within our corporate advisors. They now seem to have resolved that, and we are just reconciling the last few shareholdings, and then everybody should have all the shares that they've been waiting for. But yes, that is indeed dealt with. Then fourth question, is Sweden an interesting market when it comes to marketing companies? Yes, absolutely. In fact, the whole Nordic region, you have very small marketing companies and very big marketing companies, not so many in the middle. But we have marketing businesses in the Nordics in our pipeline, and in Sweden in our pipeline. If they meet the criteria and pass due diligence, then we would be acquiring them, and we would love to do a deal in the Nordic region, but we won't do a deal just because it's in the Nordic region. It still needs to qualify in terms of being profitable and debt-free, and being run by a leader in their field, and being, you know, right for the group. We don't want to build a group of first past the post. We want to build a group of solid agencies with a great track record, who can continue to perform once they join us. The fifth question: if subsidiaries sign contracts with big brands, will TMG consider doing press releases about it? And it says, if not, I highly recommend that. Yeah, so there have been a few changes since July around what should be press released and when it should be press released. And technically, we should only release things that are considered material. So that would have an impact on the share price, or represent 20% of our revenue, 20% of our profit, or 20% of our market cap or more. Or it could be less than 20%, but still be deemed as significant. Because we have such a wide base of customers, 19 companies across all those different countries, it's very hard for someone to do something that is significant, because one of those businesses can effectively double its turnover and only have a 5% impact on the group. So that means that less and less stuff becomes reportable. However, we do a Marketing Group newsletter, which comes out every month. It's not published on social media, but you can subscribe to it on marketinggroup.plc.com. And once a month, you'll receive an update, and that does include any wins that wins that we think are noteworthy within any of the subsidiary companies. Of course, if there is something significant, then we will be announcing that separately and through the normal channels. So number 6, why press releases only in the morning? And then it's saying traders take advantage of that. Yeah, we could, it says about releasing them during the day. We could release in the morning or after market, but again, it comes down to this significance aspect. Again, part of the new rules from July are that if it has a significant impact, it should really be released when the market is not open, to give people a chance to digest the information out of market hours. And that means we can release in the morning, or we can release after the market has closed. I think the reason it's been in the mornings historically is simply because we're in Singapore. So your mornings, we've already been up for 7 hours. Whereas to make a release after the market closes is about midnight for us. So it's purely selfish from our perspective. But there is no other reason than that. And of course, as soon as things are signed, we have an obligation to release that information to the market in a timely manner. So we will do things in a timely manner. Number 7, this is, it says, investors are intimidated by uncertainty regarding ENS NRD what is being done to address this concern. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to make any comments that could be speculative around the share price, and that includes who and what and sale side pressure. We find this particularly frustrating. We're 99% sure we know what's happening, but the 1% becomes speculation, and our lawyers say that we are not allowed to speculate. So I'm sorry I can't answer that question any more fully than that. So number 8, I think, would be a good one for Adam. I'll comment on it a little bit myself, but it says, are there any noticeable changes in the marketing sector associated with the US election? What are the biggest concerns and how do you prevent them? I mean, I described to somebody today the US election as like being a choice between a punch in the face and a kick in the nuts in terms of who they choose. Yeah, Adam, I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time. You've probably seen a few things like this, and Brexit and other things come along. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think with all of these things, often the uncertainty in the run-up to whatever this event might be is often more paralysing than the reality of what happens post the event. So, as you say, you know, there's a choice being made, you know, and clearly it's subjective as to which is the better choice. But I think in many ways, it's the run-up to that choice. And once the decision's made, markets often factor these things in ahead anyway. Certainly from a client engagement perspective, we're not seeing a great deal less work happening. You know, obviously there's some work that's happening because of the election. So it's kind of, at the moment, it's netting off fairly neutrally. But I would imagine some budgets are being held back, and maybe post-election we'll see a small uplift. But nothing material really in Europe at the moment from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think US elections normally correspond with a spike in advertising spend, don't they? Because obviously, each candidate is spending billions of dollars on promoting themselves. So, and we're lucky. Actually, we have one of the members of the group, Rainmakers, does all of the advertising for the main political party in New Zealand. So every 4 years, when there's an election, we have a little extra bump in revenue down in New Zealand. So number 9, are there any other types, forms or ways you can buy companies if the value of TMG stock does not raise from these quite low levels? Again, I can't really speculate on share price, but on deal structure, yes, of course. There are many different ways to structure transactions with people. Obviously, when we have great price earnings ratio, then using volume weighted averages is a great way to do deals, but there are other ways also to complete transactions. So number 10 is, can you apply other acquiring methods than the 10-day volume weighted average? Kind of the same question in a slightly different way. Yes, again, there's many different models that could be used. I wouldn't want to speculate on what they are, but I think I've mentioned many times before that our business model, you know, our business is not predicated on our share price. Our share price is a reflection of a mixture of market sentiment and simple economics. You know, more sellers than buyers, price goes down, more buyers than sellers, and the price goes up. Our business continues regardless. Our profit contribution, the work that we do with our clients, the amazing entrepreneurs that are part of our group remains unchanged despite the movements in the share price. And our pipeline of opportunities and the deals that we're looking to do is also continues regardless. So number 11, any plans to appoint a president of the American market, with Toby and Callum covering Europe and Asia? That's actually a very good point. Toby and Callum's main roles in Europe and Asia have been in terms of fronting the deals, and the deals coming through the US have all been handled by Unity Group partners, Dennis and Roy, who are on the ground in New York and San Francisco. But they haven't got board positions within the marketing group, and that's possibly something that we would raise at our next board meeting, now that we have more exposure in the US, and it seems to be an area of almost unlimited growth, that we should perhaps look at cementing somebody on the board who has exposure there. So that's a good suggestion. So the next one, I'll let Adam answer this one as well, which is, what's your favourite food?
All the tough questions today. I'm blessed in that I love all food. Maybe a bit too much sometimes. One of my favourite things is discovering new foods. But if I really had to pick the ultimate favourite, I think it'd probably be a nice juicy steak.
Ah, okay, cool. So yeah, I think you'll like Singapore actually when you come and visit next time, because it's a very food-centric society. Most kitchens in most apartments you have a look at are completely unused. The next one, which is also for you, Adam, which is, can you tell us anything about Project Oak? Are these companies that could or will be acquired by TMG? You kind of covered this a little bit in the opening, but in the context of what is Project Oak, I think is probably the difference.
Yeah. I mean, Project Oak had a lot of similarities with the Marketing Group, which is why this is such an exciting opportunity. It was an acquisitive group that was looking to buy progressive, modern, digitally focused, data-centric agencies. And pretty much all of the companies I have been speaking to could well be right for the Marketing Group. Clearly, we now need to start those conversations again with a different sort of perspective and explain the model and explain the opportunity. But there's a huge amount of synergy between what I've been doing and what I'm now doing. And I would expect that to bear some good results.
Excellent. So the next one is, I invested, and we are being honest here and answering every question that comes to us. So forgive me if some of them are a little unusual. But this one is, I invested in your share over a month ago and I still can't afford a Ferrari. What's going on? Yeah, I don't quite know how to answer that one. So, and another question from the same person, just to show they do ask real questions, is, do any of you do anything on the side that does not have any correlation with TMG? So I'll answer that one first, and I'll hand that over to Adam as well. So the board of TMG at the moment are dedicated to TMG. I myself, I own a private equity firm, which I'm sure many of you know about, which is Unity Group. I'm also a director and shareholder of the Mint National Bank, which is a bank in the US. Both of those roles do take up a little bit of my time. The bank is probably around half a day once a quarter for their board meetings and other information. Unity Group, I sit in their office every day, but most of my work from the office here is around the Marketing Group. As you can imagine, being the fastest growing marketing company in history, it takes up a fair bit of my time. So Adam, you've got any little side projects you want to tell us about?
So the only thing that I've got that goes alongside this is the consultancy work that I've been doing for the last 3 years through Cactus, and I'm now tapering off all of those engagements to transition to be fully engaged in the Marketing Group. There's probably an overlap of about a month where I'm just unwinding some of my commitments, but actually all of this is highly complementary to the Marketing Group, because most of the agencies I'm working with are potential candidates for us, and so I'm using that time to make sure that the transition is smooth and teeing up opportunities where I can.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, if we can bring some of those into the group, if they fit, that would be wonderful. So the next one is just somebody being very nice and saying congratulations to TMG and to Adam, and to tell us to keep focusing on building strong fundamentals, increasing collaboration, partnerships, and synergies. The point I would take from that is that I did position the role with Adam as kind of collaborator in chief. This role of CEO I very much see as helping the companies collaborate, because when we put 19 of them together 17 of them together, we're 19 now, when we put 17 of them together at the Singapore summit in September, the electricity in that room and the communication between everybody and the opportunities that came out from them just being together was enormous, and the collaborative opportunities were huge. But of course, once they go back to the office after that, they tend to just, Monday starts again and they're back to the day job. And I think one thing that Adam will be able to really add value with all of his experience is to keep those communication channels really rocking and keep the movement of information between people. Of course, they're still talking on a regular basis, but having somebody that's actually driving that process, I think, is going to be really really interesting. So question 17, only last two now, penultimate question. I hope you changed TMG's policy not to go out with news in the stock exchange's opening hours. Okay, so again, this comes back to the why aren't we releasing stuff during market hours? And again, it's just the advice from the corporate advisors that material information should be given due time for people to consider while the market is not open. So that means releasing it either before the market opens or after the market closes. We will certainly keep reviewing that policy wherever we can within the guidelines that we're given. And then last question, seems like people think Adam will replace Jeremy, when in fact Jeremy isn't CEO and we still have the same role as before. Yeah, I think that I did see going around a little bit on social media yesterday. I think it's very important to stress the differences between the roles. You know, my position is very much investor facing, NASDAQ facing, and market facing, and Adam's role is very much agency facing, client facing, you know, that side of it. And of course, those things will always cross over. Investors will want to meet Adam, and agencies will want to meet the finance side. But as a general distinction, that's where those two roles sit. Also, you know, the CEO is a very important compliance role on the board of directors, and the chairman role is more a referee position. You know, when you have the board of directors, everybody has quite delineated responsibilities, and the chairman's role is really to bring all of that together and to drive the, you know, the outcomes and the decisions that the board needs to make. And as that's our last question, do you have any comments on that, Adam, just about the role and the distinctions?
No, I mean, obviously, I think because you haven't had a CEO until this point, you've probably been a bit more hands-on than a typical chairman. But obviously, hopefully now I'm here, I can help support. And yeah, I think it's very clear that, you know, I'm CEO, you're chairman, and we'll work together to deliver great results for the business and for the investors.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, that actually brings us to the end. I saw some notes come up that people were raising hands, but I think under this webinar we don't have an ability for people to add questions. So I've got to the end of the 18 questions that we already had asked. We will post this video up so you can watch it again and pick through our answers in great detail, as I'm sure you will, or share it with any friends that weren't able to make it at this time. And we will do these calls every time we have any significant announcements, as you know, and people can always submit their questions about the topic that we're having this call or any other topic that they see fit. So thank you very much for all of your time, and thank you for continuing to support the marketing group and our efforts. We really are building something incredible over here, and yeah, your support is very much appreciated. And again, thank you, Adam, for taking the time and for backing us, basically.
I'm very excited to be on board. Great to meet everyone. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Goodbye.